Ahoy lads, it's Sam with Hobosorcerer for the latest episode in It's a Long Way to Get Good. We'll be going over spell cancels, how to do them and why they're useful. As a bit of a prelude, I would like to say that I used to believe spell cancels really wouldn't help that much, or that they weren't very useful. And the first day I started using them in invasions, I changed my mind. I realized that I was wrong. They do take some practice to get used to the timing of the different applications and different spells since they have different timings. But with practice, they can really help feint your opponent. Essentially, you're faking an action that they are used to provoke a response. The first method we'll be going over is spell pivot cancel. I talked about this briefly in my Estus cancel video because the two are closely related. It's harder to learn to spell pivot cancel if you don't already understand Estus cancel. I have the controller inputs for you at the bottom left, so you can see what a successful cancel will look like when I do the inputs, as well as what a failed cancel might look like, or why you might fail a cancel. You start casting. You face away from your opponent while unlocked at somewhat of an angle. You lock on, and when you are finished turning towards your target, you walk in any direction. Doesn't matter what direction. These cancels are faster than how you would execute an Estus cancel. The two most common reasons you might fail a cancel are trying to start the cancel too late in the casting animation for the spell, or that you try to move too soon before you've finished pivoting towards your target. If we look closely at this failed cancel, we can see the issue is that I tried to move before I had finished turning towards my target. So you can pivot cancel these spells is just like items. So these spells, which I will put a list of on the screen, may be pivot canceled relatively easily once you learn the timing. They aren't frame perfect. They work because you can take multiple steps forward while casting the spell, like you can with an Estus flask. I have found a couple of other spells, and I suspect many, if not all, may be canceled that are not on that list. However, the inputs are frame perfect. The one for Great Soul Arrow is so quick. The only way I've been able to successfully do it is if I fire a Great Soul Arrow and then try to cancel the second cast. Now, you may be thinking the frame perfect ones are too hard, and I'd agree that they are incredibly hard to pull off. Thankfully, there is a second method to cancel spells, which Hobosorcerer will demonstrate and explain for you lads.
Hello, you wonderful mages of the internet. I'd like to be going over today a type of spell cancel that I have come across in my time playing a mage in Dark Souls 3 here. A very useful spell cancel, one that's not very hard to pull off either, and allows for quite a bit of variation in your spell using gameplay. This type of cancel, I refer to it as either a roll or backstep spell cancel, and the way it works is that most spell animations can be cancelled early by rolling during a short window at the beginning of the spellcast's animation, and this window varies between different spells in their respective animations. And what this allows you to do is to perform only the very beginning of a spellcasting animation, and then cancel it early with either a roll or a backstep. What it doesn't allow you to do is, like, getting a spell out early, cancel the end lag of a spell once you've gotten it out. It's mostly just about baiting your opponent into thinking you're casting a spell, and then getting distance with a roll, or sometimes even approaching, depending on what you're doing. And your opponent will react differently to different types of spells being cancelled, and to seeing different types of animations. So be mindful of how your opponent reacts to different types of spellcasts. If they tend to strafe whenever you're using a soul arrow, If they tend to get distance when you use a Fair and Hail, use those to either get distance, bait in aggression, stuff like that. And the sound, the lingering sound you produce when you perform the spell cancel is very effective, because the entire sound clip of whatever spell you're doing will play out through the start of the animation, even though you didn't do the animation, really. It makes for a bit of a nice trickery if someone's really used to paying attention to the sounds of a spell. Although, I should say that there are a few spells in which this doesn't work, unfortunately. Among those being Flash Sword and Flame Fan, primarily because they are very, very much like weapons in the way that their swings function and how they have separate animations that you can chain together. Farron Dart, because it functions identically to Flash Sword, and oddly enough, Way of White Corona, actually, cannot be cancelled this way either. If there are any other spells that can't be cancelled this way, let me know down here. But, yeah, that should be just the gist of that. One trick that I actually like to use with the roll canceling is when I'm up against someone using exploding bolts and a crossbow. They'll often try to punish my spell casts with an exploding bolt, but by baiting either a homing soul mass or soul arrow, either one really, and then rolling that, you'll often get them to shoot their projectile, and then, obviously they'll miss because they're trying to hit you while you're standing still, and then you get an advantage there. You can either pop a quick homing soul mass and still have time to avoid their next shot. You can try to get a soul arrow in while they're reloading and trying to get another shot in. But you have plenty of options off of that. And that's just one example, and one that I feel like can really help against meta matchups for mages in duels. You get a lot of crossbows there, of course, in the arena. While Flash Sword and Farron Dart unfortunately can't benefit from spell cancels, as I described earlier, they do have some interesting tricks of their own, which stem from the fact that their initial cast animations while standing still are slower than each of their faster follow-up animations, kind of like how a lot of weapons work. And both these can follow up off of each other interchangeably. But the interesting thing is not that they can necessarily follow up off of each other, because that's something a little more understood. You can actually get these faster animation chains of the various spells as follow-up casts to either melee attacks or from non-cancelled item usage. So, like any R1, any R2, any weapon art that you can use with one hand, knives, shivs, bombs, roped bombs, Estus, mosses, just the whole gambit of consumables, pretty much. You can throw a consumable, and then Flash Sword, and the Flash Sword will come out faster, and this particularly works well with roped bombs, because of the stamina regain you get during the, use of the rope bomb, and the fact that you get a Flash Sword swing afterwards. It's faster than it might normally be. With any kind of hybrid setup where you have a long weapon in the main hand and Flash Sword in the offhand, using rope bombs in this way can give you very good coverage with very little risk of running out of stamina, just as one example to their use. But of course, you can also do this with Farron Dart to be able to punish people avoiding different consumables or attacks. You got quite a bit of versatility with it there. And because of the fact that you can delay these follow-up swings very long, like you can throw a roped bomb and then wait a couple seconds before you Flash Sword, or R1, wait a couple seconds, then Flash Sword, it allows for a lot of actions to act as baits for Flash Sword. Because you'll throw out maybe like an R2 on a whip, for example. Someone thinks, oh, I can run in and punish him now. Then they get hit with a Flash Sword. It's about as fast as a curved sword. Very good coverage in that instance. Or with great axes, any weapon that has a stagger box, but particularly with great axes, you can actually swing your great axe, and if you miss in that sense, you can follow up with a Farron Dart on the shockwave when they get stunned by that. And I'm pretty sure, just as it works with knives, it should also follow up with Farron Dart as well. Just a couple tips there, I suppose.
Alright lads, for the last part of this video, I want to show you some of these in practice. So here, we cancel a few times against this guy, bait his aggression, and then slap him with the soul arrow and an R1 when he comes in. And now he's low health, probably has confidence eroded, and we finish that fight. Definitely aided by the spell cancel. Right here, we're getting our opponent to roll. Anytime you're rolling, you're probably not putting yourself in the best position against my type of build. You don't want to roll in on a dagger, and rolling is going to hurt this gentleman's position rather than help it. It is a little bit repetitive, but the cancels are there to confuse your opponent, to make it harder to read you, as spells are very easy to read once you understand every spell. But doing something like this makes them harder to understand. It makes them harder to know exactly what approach you should do to punish the spellcaster. And against somebody with low HP, threatening to fire Fair and Hail is very, very scary. So here we do some cancels, and I can tell that they are very confused. They have never seen something like that. I will often get people who just stop dead in their tracks. They have no idea what's happening. And here we're able to bait the aggression and hit them with a crystal soul spear, which really puts us up ahead in this fight. And there he actually backs off thinking that I'm going to fire a soul arrow, and because of that I'm able to do more attacks and counterattack them, ultimately winning us the duel. So the spell cancel made it harder for him to read the spell cast, made him take a lot of damage, and made the duel a lot easier for us to win. Right here, we cancel just once and thwart their positioning against a Crystal Soul Spear, thus bringing us from having disadvantage in this fight to being able to win. Alright lads, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope that you learned something. I certainly know I did. I certainly know hobosorcerer did, and I have to thank hobosorcerer for helping make this video as well. If you guys learned something or know something that neither of us know about spell cancels, please let us know. Other than that, keep playing Dark Souls 3. Enjoy the game, guys. I have a feeling when Elden Ring comes out, even though I expect it to be a great game, I don't think DS3's time is over either. Have a good one, lads.